reposition the red base in the group layer with the logo, and proceed with the setting of lights and materials. In the folder, Cars 2 files, you find the Light and Materials Cinema 4D files. The overview of the maps, we analyze them later. A quick overview of the materials. We have two skies. The chrome material is already used on Prince of Persia and the new material for the red base. Okay, first let's see how they work the lights in our document. The result is very dark. We have to change some important parameters for this project. Activate Effect GI with these settings, follow on video. This setting allows you to have a great GI with render times very fast. We complete with the change in project settings document. Select 80 gray default color, disable linear workflow and input color profile. View the result. With these settings you can get very bright chrome rendering. The lighting system is very simple. There are two lights omni arranged frontally, with different position, with intensity that do not exceed 50, to give a diffused light and compact. Obviously both have the shadow maps active. Paste the sky and logo chrome material on our file.
You know what they say, the truth sets you free, and that's just great unless you don't want to be. And you can keep the last laugh, 'cause I don't like how it feels when you save face, but your heart breaks. Well, you've cut the wrong deal, and now I'm
The skies simulate the logo that is positioned on the bonnet of a car that is in the middle of the road. The skyline we'll be using is the famous Road 66. It is very difficult to replicate the same chrome reflection because, probably, during the making of Cars in 2006, the team at Pixar Animation Studio has used a HDRI map generated by the virtual scenario of the famous Radiator Springs. Incredible, but this way the result is really unique. We will use this picture as a sky mapping. Insert the chrome material on all parts of the logo. Disable the visibility of the sky and we make a render. Very nice. Okay, insert the material for the red base. First, we group all letter of the logo. We return in the Light and Materials file. We copy and paste the red base material.
I wanna be yours.
In this material I applied a gradient on the color setting, a Fresnel on the reflection, with a gradient from white to gray. This is the distribution of the color gradient. You can change colors as you like, the important thing is not to change this position. The trick is the available cylindrical mode and the tiles V setting. In this case the correct value is 17. Okay. Let's see the rendering. Really romantic, vintage, this chrome is very beautiful. This particular combination of the desert sky map with the road and sunset is winning. I have tried other combinations on the same style, the result is guaranteed. Finally, apply the last two materials with denomination glass to obtain special reflection effects on red base. In this case, the sky is made of a simple sunset with blue sky. You can also use other maps to get the result you like. Obviously this is not enough, we have to put a softbox to create reflections that interest us. There are many good softbox on web, definitely one of the best is Grayscale Gorilla Light Kit Pro. Even in this case the settings are basic but you can experiment with new positions and combinations. I preferred the use of symmetry, with reference to the center of the stage, in order to create equal reflections over the entire surface. we see the first impact. As we can see, the result is very bright, because in this case the parameters of the document are not correct for this purpose. First of all, disable all layers except the red base, and bring back the parameters of the project settings to default. Yes. The result is almost okay, but we have to apply the red glass material to improve the result on the red base, where I changed some parameters in the Fresnel reflection gradient. Wow, now is okay. We can get a good result also in After Effects. So our rendering will be done without the use of the GI. Of course, all the elements that make up the logo will be rendered separately. In order to have better control over all part of the logo. Then rename this file with the suffix, glass reflection. We return in the original project and renames it, animation. Proceed with the construction of the logo animation. First of all, align the pivot center with the center of the stage. After, on the Y and Z coordinates, insert 177 and -19. In this way we can create an animation to simulate the opening of the red base with the logo over. OK, activate on the frame 0, the P rotation and keyframe with the value 0. In frame 10, -85 degree, and in frame 15 confirm the same value. If we see the logo, between the frame 10 and 15, was generated a little movement. This is generated automatically, and we can see them in F-Curves panel. Let's leave in this way. In the frame 115, activate another keyframe with the value -85, and close the sequence in the frame 123 and 125 with 0. Even in this final part we was generated a plus movement, simulates a small rebound from closing. We change only to mode linear the interpolation between 15 and 115. During opening and closing of the red base. We have the animated sequence of the number 2, which has a mechanical rotation motion and positioning. This has start by the frame 24. OK, open the file, animation number 2, and we analyze together how to make this particular animation. Very nice. You can achieve this by dividing the two with polygonal modeling, but this would require more work. I chose to use the Bull tool, which simulates a perfect cut of the parts that make up the two. And to proceed directly with the animation. Each part has been incorporated into a new null object, which allows to center the new object generated by cutting for a new center pivot rotation. It seems very complicated, but believe me, it is easier to work this way. From frames 24 and 31, the two parts of the number 2, they make a rotation of 180 degrees, creating a symmetrical motion even if the parts are different as a form. Between frames 31 and 44, while the parts are close, the central part of the two will 180 degree counterclockwise. When all parties are close to each other, from frames 44 to 60, rotates 90 degrees clockwise altogether, so as to create the number 2. Between frames 60 and 71, the parts over and under create the simulation of magnetic connection for the completion of the symbol. From frame 72, the number 2 is a single polygon object. For this step, I used the tags module display. The sequence continues with a movement along the z-axis, for the output of the 2, from the chrome border. And descends with a small bump at the bottom, accompanying the morphing of the V emblem. OK, we see the result of this sequence in our logo. As I said, from the frame 72, the symbol 2 is a single object. You must ensure that the chrome material is placed uniformly on any object, and that the sublayers are active. Okay, let's proceed with the animation of the V emblem. This technique is very simple and unique. It is not important the number of points that make up our polygon, you can change all the points together or only a part. To do this, we apply the tag, character tags, pose morph. Select all points. In the main panel, activate the checkpoints. And in the second panel, click button, Add Pose. To understand what has happened, just move the points that you want to change. And changing the value of strength. We see the animation. This tag is very useful not only to animate points. If we apply the same procedure on both, path inside and outside, we get the final result by inserting keyframes on the strength slider with value 0 to 100. Thanks to the versatility of Cinema 4D, all its tools work very well, even in very complex hierarchies of tools. Great! Fabulous! Cool! In this case we also added a bolt tool, to mask the inside of the V emblem on the chrome border, using a spline that follows perfectly the center of its chisel bevel. In the animation overall, the interpolation of strength, from 0 to 100, will be active set between 101 and 121. We see all sequences together. Incredible, everything is okay. Before proceeding with the rendering, we have to insert in the Render Settings panel, the effect of Vector Motion Blur. This will allow us to create a realistic effect of blur during movements of the various elements. Okay, we apply the Motion Blur tag on all elements except the chrome border. Set Z position of the camera, -1920. And the final measure of our project to, 1920, and 800. We proceed with separate renderings to switch to After Effects. A quick overview on the rendering that we need for the creation of compositing in After Effects. Open the software and import everything into it. Drag the videos by following the numerical sequence in order to distribute all the items correctly, except for the video 5 glass red base, which is inserted above the layer 2. Finally, insert under all the base BG, created in Photoshop. Let's start with a layer of the logo, and insert the same preset. In After Effects, the layer's style can be included in the preset, but very often some parameters or settings are reset to the default color. In order not to lose these settings, you can apply an animation of keyframes. In this preset, like almost everyone, I used an exposure filter with 0.8 and 0.9 to make the logo more brilliant. The shadow and inner glow to create an effect of brightness on the edges of the logo. For now, turn off the glass red base layer and proceed with a simple red base layer. In this case, we have an exposure with a value of 0.8 and 1 for the brilliance. Inner shadows to create an inner shadow at the top. OK, duplicate the layer and choose hard light mode. This will make the red color amazing. Don't forget to delete inner shadows, and change on the exposure of the layer of the red base, with gamma value from 1 to 1.2. Perfect. We can make bright the red background, with exposure filter to 1 and 0.85. And reduce the saturation, with the hue filter, with saturation value, -15. We apply on number to the preset. This preset has a gamma animation to make the first part of the animation very bright. Insert an animation on the shadow layer style to create a more realistic effect, while moving the V emblem. On preset V emblem we have a little variation, with the exposure to 1 and 0.7. And the shadows more pronounced. We can make shadow of the logo more intense by changing the distance, spreads and size, with values 3, 7 and 6. We can make the inside of the upward shadow of red base most widely by changing the value from 75 to 45. For the glass reflections, you can directly use a method of overlapping layers in overlay, or linear light mode, or, I show you another interesting method to create and control the reflections on the glass. Duplicate the layer glass red base, and rename glass 1 and glass 2. Insert a solid white layer, gradient mask. Which will help us to manage the masks. One for each glass layer. Apply the first glass preset. As we can see, this preset has an exposure to 1.3 and 1, and a simple choker with a value of 17.3, to reduce the size of our glass 1 layer. We set the mode hardlight in this layer. Now, insert the preset, gradient mask in setting the track matte and luma inverted. Copy the ramp filter and paste it on the second layer above glass 2 layer. But before you use the same method of the track mat, insert the glass 2 preset. I will show you how is made. I applied a simple choker with a value of 14, a Gaussian blur to smooth the border, and finally a ramp effect in a radial mode, with black and pink color. I set the layer mode to lighten. OK. Now we set the track mat to Luma inverted. You can change all parameters of the gamma, shadow and glow, so you get the end result that you like. OK, the glass reflections can be more present or blurred, changing the gradient ramp setting of the layer glass 1 and 2.
You kept it going till the sun fell down. You kept it going.
We can improve the highlight of the Chrome V emblem layer. I show you how. Duplicate the layer, rename it Sharp Highlight. And import the last preset. In this preset, we have a base exposure, a fine edges filter, invert, and finally a level filter to improve to define of white and black. Set the layer mode to add, and enter a value of opacity between 15 and 20. If you like more highlight in the chisel bevel, you can increase the value as you like. For the inside layer mechanical, we must stretch the time value to match the movements of the animation. as we see is not centered, we insert the values on the position, 482 and 205. View the result. The correct value of stretch time ranges from 137 to about 140. We reduce the entire flow of animation from 7 seconds to 5 seconds.
Meat and potatoes, bangers and mash, dollars, pounds, dosh, cash, Audubon to the rising sun, the I-10 to the M1, Congress, Parliament, President, the Queen, petrol you say, gasoline, now grab your bird and get your girl, now it's a small collision of worlds.
Finally, we can reduce the presence of the inner glow of the number 2. Because it is too bright, it is possible to decrease the value of opacity from 75 to 33. OK, proceed with the final rendering. This is our final result.
Cars 2.
Very good. In my version, I created a sequence with a fly out of the camera. The rest can be treated with the same method.
Cars 2.
I remind you the next appointment for the realization of the movie title, Thor. Another amazing animation. I hope this tutorial has been to your liking. By Antonio Seri of CRRNTN.com. Cheers.